So welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should set yourself relationship goals. Now, we set ourselves goals for everything else in life. We set ourselves goals for our career. We set ourselves goals sometimes for keeping fit, but oftentimes we don't think about setting goals for our relationships. So today, if you're coming on the channel for the first time, my name is Yewande, and I deal with all things to do with finding your soulmate, to do with developing your relationship, to make your relationships more meaningful so that you can find your soulmate at any age. We believe that you can get the relationship of your dreams, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, even into your 70s and 80s. But it's all about your attitude towards relationships and whether or not you believe that relationships are important, and whether or not you even want a soulmate. Because oftentimes we're believing that we don't need a relationship when we get to a certain age. We just need to relax and start looking after our grandchildren, especially women of a certain age group. So whatever your age, whatever your inclination, you need to think about what you want to achieve within a given time period. And this time of the year, for some of us, which is kind of January, at the beginning of the year, you're setting yourself some goals, you're thinking about your future, you're thinking about, this is the year that I would like to have my own soulmate. It's a good time to think about how you go about doing that. So let's get into it. Setting goals for relationships is actually about thinking where you want to be by the end of a given period. Of course, you can't control how other people relate to you. You definitely cannot control that. But what you can control is how you relate to other people. And generally speaking, setting goals for relationships will help you in every sphere of your life. So be it your work, be it your friendships, be it your dating life, be it anything that you do, we operate in relationships. So the first thing that is important to think about is, where do you see yourself at work? What kind of relationships are you having? Maybe the places that you already are in, the spaces that you already are in. Now, I appreciate that quite a lot of people aren't actually relating with people physically in person. They're relating with people online. And yes, that is important, but I really want to deal with relationship from the point of view of where you have access to in-person relationships, in-person interactions, because the online can be a little bit sometimes the next stage after you've kind of perfected how you relate to people that you can see, people who can react to you immediately. Because sometimes when we're online, we can put on a persona, we can put on a different kind of image, we can choose not to even respond to people. Whereas if you have somebody that you're relating to, like in a place of work, if you're working in an in-person situation, it's a good place to think about what kind of relationship you want to have. So if you are in a workplace situation, think about the relationships that you're having there. Friends as well, the friends that you have or not. There's certainly a big issue now with loneliness, because we're using internet much more, that sometimes people can go for weeks or even months without having any interactions with people. If you are in that kind of role where you don't have much interaction with physical people, then I would suggest that would be your first relationship goal, is to be intentional about going to places where you're going to meet people. And in that situation, it will give you the opportunity to begin to develop your skill around talking to people, around getting feedback with people that aren't online. Think about what you want to achieve within the year. If you were looking for a soulmate, give yourself a healthy period. If you're looking for a soulmate, have you actually done that initial piece of work, which is to think about what you want out of that relationship? Is it that you want somebody that will interact with you weekly or monthly, or someone that you want to go out with on a regular basis? Is it somebody that will give you that opportunity to be able to express the kinds of things that you enjoy doing? Think about some of those things, because sometimes we don't know what we want. I'll give you an example of myself. When I first went on the online dating, I didn't even know enough about myself. There were questions that I was being asked, what did you like? What don't you like? And I had to give all of that some thought. So make some time to think about where you are now in your life, whether or not you're in your 20s or your 30s, 40s or 50s, where I am in my life right now. What's important to me? Is it friendships? Is it my work? Is it a combination of the two? Is it my family? Family should always be important. And I appreciate that some people have families that they're not relating very well with for different reasons. Maybe there's been some sort of trust issues that have gone on, and you're kind of estranged from your family. But there will be one member of your family or one member of your extended family that you might be able to reach out or relate with, so that you're not totally cut off from family. Families are important. They give us a reference point of why we are the way that we are. Sometimes you're acting in a particular way because of past traumas, for example, and having that family connection might be a way of helping you to look at those issues, to resolve those issues. So, is this a journey that you're willing to go on? If it is a journey that you're willing to go on, let me know your situation. Have you ever thought about, having goals for your relationships? Have you ever thought about what you want to achieve within a given time period with a relationship? Are you already in a relationship? Let's know whether you're already in a relationship as well, and where that relationship is going. I've heard that women have come to me often and said, look, I've been in this relationship for like 7-8 years, and I just don't know where the relationship is going. And the first thing I'm always saying to them is, when you started the relationship, what were your goals? Oh, well, I was looking to get married. Okay, so at what point did you intend that to happen? Oh, I was hoping it would happen within 2 years, they would say, for example, or 3 years. Well, was this ever spoken? Did you have communication with your partner at the time to talk about what your aspirations were? Quite a lot of the time, we didn't even think of it. We're thinking about it in our heads, but we're not verbalizing it. We're not talking about it. And you need to kind of discuss these things, because if you don't, you could be in a relationship for 10 years and not even feel like you've achieved anything that you desire in that relationship. So looking at your goals for even as soon as you start dating, obviously you're not going to jump on them and say, oh, I want to get married. And I know that sometimes that's how you feel and you don't want to waste your time or their time. But there has to be some conversation that both of you will say, this is our end goal, but right now we're getting to know each other. And if we decide that we're not compatible for what both our end goals are, then maybe we need to call it quits and just be friends and so on. So there isn't anything wrong with actually making your intentions known quite early in a relationship, just so that you're both aware of where you're hoping to get to. And that's the same in a career. That's the same in other things that we do in life. We need to have an end goal. No one does anything for no reason. Otherwise, if you keep just doing things without having an end goal, you're just going to not get to where you hope to get to, because you didn't make any plans about how to get there. So think about this year. This is a new year. This is the beginning of a new year. Think about where you want to be at work. Maybe you have a boss that you didn't get on very well with last year. What can you do differently to be able to get along? Do you actually need to continue to be in that workplace because that relationship might be so toxic that you need to move? And if you do decide to move, have you got a plan how you're going to do it? But the first thing is to actually think about how you want to improve your relationships, generally speaking. Coming to think about a soulmate, think about what you want to do by the end of the year. Do you want to be married by the end of the year? Do you want to have more friends, in-person friends, not just online friends. We're so caught up in having followers and, having a big channel where people are following us, but we're actually quite lonely sometimes because those are not real people. They're not real people. We're not designed to not be in relationships, whatever it is. So think about how you are going to achieve that by the end of the year. It may mean taking yourself out of your comfort zone, because if your work is mainly working from home, most people work very flexibly now. It may mean that you're being deliberate about going on a social activity on a regular basis, be it weekly, be it something you enjoy. For example, I'm into running. So I have some friends that I meet up with at the gym regularly or go for running with them. These are ways of making sure you're out, planning events that you and some other people can do together. And if you don't have any group of people that you do stuff with, have a look and see where things are happening in your area that you can go and pick up a new hobby. January is the time that most people start thinking about a new hobby. Think about a new hobby. What do you want to do that might be able to generate some relationships that you can begin to work on? Also, number 2, think about how you're going to interact with others. How others see you is very important. How do they see you? Give permission to 1 or 2 people. If you have family, you can say to them, or if you have a son or a daughter, if you're in your, 40s or 50s, and say, look, how do I come across? Because sometimes we are not perceiving ourselves the way other people are not perceiving us the way that we perceive ourselves. So it's very important for you to think about giving permission to 1 or 2 people. How do I come across? Do I come across angry? Do I come across happy? Do I come across sad? How do I come across? Because you might be giving out some energy that you're not thinking that you're giving out. So give permission to 1 or 2 people if you're bold enough. Try it. What can they say? What's the worst case scenario? They'll tell you that you come across angry, or you're coming across like you're giving up vibes that you're not interested in friendships. Do you smile when you're out and about, or you're carrying the whole world's problem on your head? A lot of people cannot hide their feelings. They can't hide their emotions. And so their emotions show when they're in relationships. People say, oh, what's the matter? And you say, oh, nothing. But you don't look like there's nothing wrong with you. You look like something is wrong. So this is some of the things that in building some goals, it would include giving permission to 1 or 2 people to give you some feedback about how you're coming across. Number 3, think about where you want to have these relationships. Is it going to be in a sporting environment? Is it going to be on holiday? Is it going to be on a one-to-one? If it is about finding your soulmate, it might be on a situation where you're joining some kind of maybe speed dating type of environment where they're holding regular events for single people to just go talk to people, see how you get on. There are many opportunities to go to a social event where it's actually geared for single people who are looking for relationships. It could be even at an online situation to start with. Sometimes they'll have a initial online situation and then an offline situation, just to get yourself into that kind of relationship, thinking about how you're going to do it. You might decide that if you're usually very homely, quite a lot of people are quite homely, and the thought of going out is not really something they want to do. Well, you're going to have to come out of your comfort zone, because the people that you want to meet are not going to come and meet you in your house. You're going to have to go out of your house, out of your comfort zone to meet people. So maybe just identify a couple of places. Even shopping is a good place, where at the moment we can do online shopping, so we don't even have to go out for shopping if we choose not to. But you can practice your relationships, how to relate to people when you go out to the shop. Talk to the cashier, talk to people, the sales assistants, talk to people. It's almost a lost art now, the art of just being nice to people. Some people don't, they're not nice to people around them. And this can be a problem, because if you're not nice to people around you that are giving you services, then you're not likely to develop the skill that you need to sustain a relationship that you want to become a more romantic one. You have to practice the art of being nice. So set yourself some basic goals and decide that maybe it might just be one or two to start with, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. It might just be a couple. Okay, this year I'm going to be more social. I'm going to go out more. I'm going to go to invitations. Friends will invite you to come to places. I'm going to create some time to go to that social event. Maybe 3 social events a month, maybe 1 social event a month, and be intentional about that. That is a relationship goal. That could be a relationship goal. It could be that you're going to go on a course on that will talk about how you come across. There are many courses now that teaches you, and you can get that on YouTube. You don't even have to pay for it. That will show you how to comport yourself when you're in a social situation, or how to relate to people. These are lost arts now, because we don't have the time anymore to relate with people. We're always online. We're always doing stuff by ourselves. And the loneliness statistics is very high. Mental health is very high. Some of the reasons why these things are high is because we have lost the art of relationship. Goal number 3 for some of you will be just deciding that I need to write down what it is that I like doing. I've lost my sense of self. I don't do anything anymore for myself. I used to be very sociable, maybe if you're a younger person, maybe when you were at university. Now you've left university and you lost. You don't know where to go anymore. Some people meet their soulmate at university and some people don't. But it becomes harder to meet people unless you're intentional about it once you've left those kind of educational institutions. And even for those that have a belief, you go to the church, or you go to a mosque, or you go to, sometimes then the activities are already focused. It's not necessarily, you're not going there to do a social event. Maybe you're going there, obviously, if you're going to church on a Sunday, you're going there to worship. But if there's no after worship social event, you might just find that you're in church and you're out of church. And you're not actually having relationships with people. And that's quite common as well. People have said that they've felt quite isolated because, there is an opportunity to socialize with other people. So the same way that we have a CV for our career, we need to develop a relationship CV. This is what I want to achieve. This is by when I want to achieve it. This is how I'm going to go about doing it. These are the places I'm going to go to. And there will be a kind of synergy that you'll begin to build up, because automatically you'll begin to have more friends. And when you have more friends, those friends will introduce you to some other friends. And then if your goal is to have a soulmate, then you can begin to talk to your friends about the kind of people you're looking for. You can begin to think about which kinds of platforms that you can go on online to meet people as well. But it starts with having a physical conversation with people who are around you that may be able to support you in that process. Being intentional about what you want to achieve is really the crux of what this actual video that I'm doing is about today. It's about being intentional about your relationships. It's about being able to say that by 3 months' time, by 6 months' time, I want my relationships at work to improve. I want my friendship groups. I want to drop some people. Some of you need to let go of some relationships so that you can make room for new ones that are more constructive, ones that are more in line with where you want to be. You need to lose some friends. Some people are frenemies. They're not actually your friend. They're always criticizing you, always putting you down. And you've just kept them there. You've not even thought about, how do I release myself from this toxic relationship? You have to think about that. Let's think about this year being intentional about losing some toxic relationships, ones that don't build us up, ones that put us down. There's some people around us that are not allowing us to develop relationships with our potential soulmate. They always have something negative to say. They're always criticizing anytime you're with certain people. It could even be that they're jealous of your relationship, but they're going to criticize the people that you're with. Some of these relationships, it's a goal. My relationship goal, for me personally this year, I have 2 relationship goals that I'm going to share with you. One is to lose certain people who are around me, to actually find a way of not being with them anymore. And that doesn't mean that you have to be mean-hearted. It just means that you have to move away from certain things and bring in certain other things, other people, for example, so that you're making room, you're being in spaces where you want to acquire some new relationships. It's a bit like wanting to go shopping to buy food. You're not going to look for food in a gym. Well, maybe you can have some snacks from the machine, but to actually purchase food, you have to go to a supermarket or a market, farmer's market, or somewhere where you will see lots and lots of different kinds of food or fruit or whatever that you're into. So you have to sometimes lose some friends to gain new friends. And sometimes you have to move away from certain things that you used to do to make room for new things that you'd like to do in order to bring in the kinds of relationships that you want. Another goal is that you need to think about is whether or not you are going to succeed within a given time period. And the reason why I'm saying that you have to think about it, be realistic. You can't say, okay, I have some people, they'll say, right, I want to get married within 6 months. That's not realistic. It could happen. Oh, my biological clock is ticking. That's a relationship goal that I want to get married within six months. It could happen. If you've already done all your background, work, you're already in a relationship, you're discussing with your partner from the get-go when you met them that, look, we're both in this for a shortest period of time to see if we're compatible. We'll get married and then we'll be finding out more about ourselves. That will have to be something you would have discussed from the beginning of the relationship. But you can't not have had any kind of traction where relationship is concerned and say, I'm going to be married in 6 months. Not very realistic. So they have to be smart. Smart goals, smart relationship goals, which is more realistic. They have to be, specific, of course, but the timing has to be specific. If you want to aim for marriage in a year's time, for example, then you need to be dating. You need to have an idea of where it is that you are now in your own journey of relationships. You need to have met people that are like-minded, who are also looking for relationship with the intention of being married. And marriage is a continuous thing. It's not like I think sometimes people say, I just want a wedding. There's actually some people that's their relationship goal, by the way. I want a wedding. Well, I think that would be probably quite a good goal, an easy goal to achieve if you got lots of money. I'm sure you can find someone that would happily stage a wedding with you. But if that's your goal, all the best with that. But most people will be looking for longer term, beyond the wedding, to have an ongoing relationship because you're looking for companionship. That's what makes us human. We have the companionship. It's not just for the wedding. So let's think about this year. Let's be intentional. I would really love for everyone who's watching this, maybe in a year's time, come back and say, yes, I actually implemented some of the things that you were saying on the podcast, to be able to say that I'm now closer to my relationship goal than I was at the beginning of the year. I know many women in particular, unfortunately, it does tend to be women, who want something but have done absolutely nothing about how they're going to get there. And they're now in their 50s, they're now in their 60s, and they're still doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You need to be intentional about doing something different. You'll need to be intentional about giving other people permission to help you to see where you can do things differently. I double dare you, if you've not had a date and you're waiting for someone to ask you on a date, I double dare you to try and position yourself in a situation where you might even be able to ask someone and say, listen, I've never been on a date before. Would you go on a date with me? It could be somebody that is a friend, just to kind of get you over that hurdle of the fact that you've never been on a date before. You have to be a bit vulnerable and then encourage them. Can you give me some feedback? I remember very clearly when I was going on my first date after many years of being married, and now I was divorced and now looking to date. I actually sought counsel from my close friends. What do you do on a date? Where do you go on a date? And almost short of doing a dummy run of a date before I was able to have the courage to go on one. So don't be shy. Relationship building is a long-term process. It's not a short-term thing. So think about 3 relationship goals, just 3 relationship goals that you are going to bring on board this year. Just 3. I've told you a couple of mine. I'm going to be shedding some relationships, leaving some people behind because I need to take on some new relationships to get me closer to where I would like to be this year. One of my other goals for relationships this year is to get along with as many people as I can in the context of my work, for example, in the context of business. For example, the things that I'm doing business, people that I'm involved with business, because you never know who can lead you to your next level, even if you don't necessarily like their personality, but they could be people that can get you to their next level. So I'm going to shed some people that are distracting me because they don't add value to me. They don't encourage me. They're always putting me down maybe. And you might be in that situation. But you're too, you've had them for friends for many years, but they're not helping you. They're critical of you in a negative way. So you need to maybe think about how you move away from those kind of toxic relationships. And then the other thing could be that you're reaching out to family members that could help you to understand some of the maybe traumatic things that have happened in your past that is stopping you from moving forward. You might not know that you're coming across in a very toxic way, and you might need to revisit some things that have happened in the past. Some people say, oh no, I don't want to, that person reminds me of my ex. And so you don't even give them a chance. You don't develop any relationship with them because they remind you of somebody else. But they are not that other person. So you need to think about how you manage that. But I know that it's not that we don't want to do these things, but we just don't make time to doing them. We think it would just happen, but it really doesn't just happen. They need to be planned and they need to be factored in the same way that we factor in other important things in our lives. So I'm hoping that this is giving you some food for thought for this new year that we're in. And let me know your thoughts. Let me know whether this is something that you've done before. Put your comments in the chat. Like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it useful. And I'll see you on my next video. Thank you for watching.